I would like to call the regular meeting of the Romulus Board of Education, October 25th, to order. May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Kuderich?
Present.
Ms. Lanasi?
Present.
Ms. White?
Present.
Mr. Minkevich?
Present.
Ms. Freyer?
Present.
Ms. Buckley?
Present.
Ms. Roscoe here?
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Carr, are there any changes in our agenda?
No, there are not.
May I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of our previous meeting minutes.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes.
Support.
Any questions on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Superintendent Carr.
Mr. Clark, personnel actions, please.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Members of the board, we have several personnel actions tonight. In addition, there's an addendum before you also. First is a for-your information. Ms. Wendy Adams, Romulus resident, has been hired for the AM kindergarten aide position effective October 15th. The addendum that you see in front of you is also related to this. Since October 15th, Ms. Adams has also been awarded the Title I para position at Romel. And Ms. Victoria Satterley, the addendum that you see before you, has replaced Ms. Wendy Adams. So that's how the two are connected together there. Ms. Patricia McAverly has been hired to replace Ms. Marlo Walker, the secretary at Merriman Elementary, while Ms. Walker is on maternity leave and child care leave, and she's going to be gone for the remainder of the year. As I mentioned before, this addendum that you have in front of you is for Ms. Victoria Satterley. Ms. Victoria Satterley will replace Ms. Wendy Adams when she goes to Romel. Ms. Satterley will, effective date will be October 25th, 2004. And our last for your information is a retirement. Ms. Loretta Good, custodian at high school. Last day work will be December 31st, 2004.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Mr. Ruthiers, absent, excused absence today. I will present you the four check registers for a total of $342,058.68. I haven't had any questions relative to this, or entertained, but I recommend the approval of the bills as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Sorry, who made that? Betty?
Betty.
I had a question, previous
Right ahead.
to the,
I did.
Betty.
that's okay. In the, Mr. Clark, in the for-your information, does that still leave a vacancy for Wick Elementary as it for kindergarten aide if they're doing?
No, all vacancies have been filled. There's no vacancy at WIC right now for the kindergarten.
Okay, I was just a little, I know you said Wendy was replacing this person and moving on over the Romel, so I didn't know if that presented a vacancy for WIC.
All positions are filled.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That was it. Ms.
Okay. All right. We have a motion on the floor. Any question on the bills? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next item is Merriman boiler installation. We've had issues with one of the boilers at Merriman Elementary School. As a result of that, the manufacturer, it was a new boiler that was installed a year and a half ago. We've had issues and some problems with that boiler, and we've been given a replacement boiler by the manufacturer. There's been a number of discussions between us, the manufacturer, Barton Mallow, relative to the boiler. We may well work very hard to have the installation cost covered as well. But the heating season is coming upon us, and we have chosen at this point in time to go ahead and hire AMS there may be some legal action there. Sometimes you get to the point where the legal action, the lawyers cost more than installation, so we'll be judicious in the use of funds in putting this situation together.
Okay, Joe, what was the total cost?
$7,114.
Okay, so we're gonna use the 7,100, okay, all right.
I just have a question. Do you foresee the company paying for the installation? Or you just, because you said you don't want to wait, I know, because of the season. But has there been any talks in terms of them at least coming halfway, maybe 50% if they don't cover the whole 7,000 or anything like that? Or they're just flat out no?
That certainly is open for discussion. I think that the fact is that they just delivered and gave us a new boiler because of the issues we had with the old boiler. From my point of view, that's an admission that there was something wrong with that. And my point of view, why should we have to pay to replace one unit for another unit? But then there's another piece to it that complicates it, and that is we're going to install this one slightly differently than it had been installed before. There's a stack that's above the boiler that goes out the top. And in the past, there were two boilers that both run through the same one. In this situation, we're going to separate it so they're each running on their own individual stack in here. So there would be some costs associated with that. I understand that they might not want to deal with that. So the answer to your questions, I don't know. But we're going to try to recover that cost. Okay, Mr. Dolan.
Thank you, Joe. Members of the board, tonight we have with us Betsy McLeod and her group of Reading First facilitators. Just to update the board, this is our second year in Reading First. As you recall, it was close to $1 million grant. The grant provided, paid for the 6 facilitators. I think we're very successful, and Betsy's going to talk about the results this year and where we're going. A new note to it, however, is because we did such a good job, because Betsy's been such a great facilitator, Betsy will be leaving us. She was just promoted to be lead the statewide Reading First initiative, which is a major responsibility, and we are very pleased and very proud of her. So she'll be taking over the entire state Reading First program, and we'll be getting someone to replace her. So congratulations, Betsy.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
No.
There we go. It was about a year ago that we were here kicking off the Reading First initiative in Romulus, and so we're happy to come back a year later and update you on what we've done in a very productive year. I have with me tonight 4 of the literacy coaches from our 6 buildings, Patricia Adams from Barth, Pia Chasney from Romulus, Barbara Jace from Corey, and Candace Walters from Hale Creek. Tonight we're going to just give you some brief snapshots of some important elements of the Reading First grant. In your folder, you've got additional information that we hope with what we give you tonight, the information you have in your packet will make more sense. And after you've had a chance to look it over, we encourage you to approach us with any questions you have. But tonight we're just going to give you an overview on a reminder of what the grant requirements are. A document that we created here in Romulus in response to feedback we got from K-3 teachers. The professional development. I'm going to give you an update on our data so far and accountability. And then we're just going to show you the grant in action with a brief slideshow of Romulus teachers and principals and kids in action. As Tom mentioned, this grant, we're in our second year of a 2-year commitment. In December of this year, we'll be notified whether Romulus is eligible to continue in the grant. And if buildings are eligible, then the grant can be reapplied for 3 more years. So that's something that's on the horizon that we'll be waiting to hear about, pending data and Romulus's interest in continuing in the grant. To start with tonight, we'd like to have Candy Walters just review for you some of the major grant requirements.
Thank you, Betsy. The Reading First grant requirements haven't changed any since we first wrote the grant, and they look very simple on this piece of paper, but they take a lot of work to implement them. Implementing a comprehensive literacy program K-3 with a daily 2.5-hour uninterrupted literacy block, using flexible grouping and assessment information to target the lowest performing students is a huge task, and we seem to be doing pretty good at it. The state grant only requires 90 minutes, but we have a 2.5 hour block. And we use Houghton Mifflin and Saxon Phonics as our core materials. The program includes the 6 components of reading, which are phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary, phonics instruction, comprehension, and writing. There's also a literacy coach in the grant for each of the elementary schools. We have ongoing professional development that is required, weekly grade level meetings. The coaches meet with every grade level every week for half an hour. 50 hours of Houghton Mifflin training over 2 years. I think we've accomplished about 26 hours of it so far. We did Saxon Phonics training. We gave letters training to all the teachers, and we're in the process of giving it to anyone who missed it now. All the new teachers in the program or the people who missed letters training last time, we're giving those that training over. Dibbles training every September. Dibbles is a test that we use at the end of the, well, 3 times a year, in September and in January and in May. And we retrain people for that. And then we're down to the assessments that are required. Dibbles, the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills, the Iowa Test of Basic Skills we administer in the spring, and this year we won't just do K3, we'll do K4, because the 4th grade was in our program last year. So we'll get, we'll check and see how they're doing this year then. And we also, Betsy administers something called Teacher Quest, which is a survey of all the teachers in the program that tells us what they think about it and how they're doing with everything that we're going on. And that's the grant requirement.
Candy spoke to you a few minutes ago about some of the assessments that we use, and we use Dibbles as a screening instrument. And Dibbles is what we kind of call quick and dirty, but it is extremely accurate at predicting how well children will succeed in reading. After we have administered this, it identifies students who may need some additional instruction or may need some more intensive instruction. And through this screening instrument, then we write programs or we write intervention plans for each of those children that are identified. You have 5 pieces of colored paper stapled together in your packet. This is the document that we as coaches are quite proud of in Romulus. It has been shared with some people throughout the state, and everyone is clamoring for a copy of it. In our intervention plans last year, it was kind of global, and teachers wrote intervention plans, but we weren't as focused as we needed to be in working with our at-risk students. As you'll notice, there's 5 different colors. Each one of them has to do with one of the 5 essential elements of reading instruction. There's one on phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. What we are doing this year is sitting with each one of our teachers and talking about every single one of the at-risk students identified through Dibbles in their room. And we are saying, what is their most needy area? Where do we need to start with these children? Sometimes it's in the area of phonics, and we identify exactly what in phonics we need to work on. And then as you'll see, each one of those pages has materials that are available. We highlighted all the materials we could find that we had from Houghton Mifflin, and we have a ton of supplemental materials for that comprehensive program. And sometimes in working with kids, we forget what we have. So this is a nice reminder. Oh yeah, I can use this piece, I can use that piece. Plus we're targeting how often we work with them, 5 days a week, always with our at-risk kids. And how many minutes a day. And the other wonderful piece is that last column that talks about assessments. Our kids who need substantial intervention, we minimally will progress monitor or assess them every 2 weeks. Those kids who may need some additional support, We minimally progress monitor or assess them every month. We're not waiting till the end of a marking period to decide whether the strategies we're using with kids are working or not. This way, if it's not working, we can look and say, well, let's try these materials, or let's try these instructional strategies. And if it's working, fine, let's keep going with it. Or if a child has mastered it, now where do we need to move on to? So this piece has been just a godsend this year as far as I'm concerned. And I'm lucky to be in a building that also has a CSR grant at Barth. So when the teacher is out of the classroom and working with the CSR facilitator, they sit down with me during the first hour. We look at their plans. We look at the data we've collected. Is it working? Isn't? Make any adjustments we need. And then the CSR facilitator helps them identify programs and software that they can use to help support the literacy for these children. So it's a nice blending of all those programs in one. Any questions? Yes.
How do you know when a kindergartner is a risk child or a child that can't read?
In our DIBELS testing at the kindergarten level, one of the things they do is letter identification, and we time it. Now, it's different for the kid who in a minute can identify 5 because he's going, G is the right answer, or the child who says G, I, J, and can go right along. So then we know that. Children who can't rhyme will have difficulty. We look at those things. We look at kids being able to pull apart words. For example, if I say, pig, what word is that? Pig. Or the other way, pig, give me all of the sounds in it.
I see.
So those are the beginning types of skills that children need before we can go on and, map words for them. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, Barb?
Barb Jace, I'm the literacy coach at Corey. And your orange sheet that's in there, my task is to talk with you about the professional development, the ongoing professional development that we've had, luckily have had because of the Reading First grant. Last year, all of the kindergarten through 3rd grade staff, I'm specifying staff because it's also the special education teachers who may have a K-3 student, paraprofessionals, speech teachers, all of these people are included in the training. And last year we did adopt Houghton Mifflin Nation's Choice, and we had 24 hours of training in that. And we also had the literacy coaches. We attended training the summer before last, and then we also attended the training that all the teachers were going to. So we kind of got double dipped, so to speak. Saxon Phonics, representatives from Saxon Phonics came over here to the board office and spoke to the literacy coaches about the program. That's another one of our pieces that's important. The Saxon Phonics program is what's used with the intensive students to help them with letter sound identification and with blending words together and with taking words apart. And that person, or the 2 people, they came and they trained the literacy coaches, and we as literacy coaches trained the rest of the K-3 staff in the district. The language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, the letters training, excuse me. Again, during the summer of 2003, we as literacy coaches went to Lansing and we had training in letters, and then we came back and we trained the K-3 staff with letters. And that letters training is not so much something you would take back and teach the students, but it's more of a knowledge for you as a teacher and for you to be more aware of what's going on. For example, some teachers really thought that the letter T, the sound was ta, and the sound of the letter T is t. So it's something that's very minor, but when you think about it, if you teach children that the sound of the letter T is ta, then they're going to be going around using, if you wanted them to take apart the word or put together the word t-ub, they would go ta-ub. So it's it's subtle, but it's something that's very important. That's just an example. There are 9 modules in letters, and the teachers last year, the K-3 staff last year, they were given modules 1 through 8, and then last week at Professional Development Day, that day on Thursday, they were given the last module, which was writing. And that was incorporated with the 6+1 traits and also with Houghton Mifflin. So we did a combined thing so teachers can see what the connections are. They were also, the teachers have also been trained in DIBELS, which is the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Literacy Skills. The literacy coaches, again, in the summer of 2003, we went and we had training in how to administer DIBELS so that we could come back and teach the staff how to administer DIBELS. The important thing about DIBELS is that the classroom teacher gives the child the test. There have been other times when we have had paraprofessionals or read teachers who have given the children the test. But in this particular case, it's very important that the classroom teacher give the test. A paraprofessional or read teacher could give the progress monitoring, which is another piece, which, as Pat said, had to do with keeping up with what do we want, how far are intensive children coming along, how far are the strategic children coming along so we know where to take them and what we need to do with them. So the teachers have all been trained with that, and they were given a full day of training. And when we have our coaching, which is the next piece on the list, when we do, part of our coaching is having half-hour meetings with the teachers once a week. So every week we meet with every K through 3 teacher. And if there's a special education teacher who has a child who would be kindergarten through 3rd grade, we also meet with that person. And we sit down and we talk about where are you at, where are you going, what do you need from me? What can I do for you, what do you need from me? The coaching, we again went during the summer of 2003, and we had 14, together with the letters training and the DIBELS training, and all the training that we had a total of 14 days of training in the summer of 2003. We do coordination with the CSR personnel for the 4 buildings, like Pat said, at Barth happens to be one of the buildings. But with the 4 buildings that do have CSR grants, we sit down with those teachers for a full hour, and we can really get into the meat of some things and really get into talking about students who need our help. We work with the teachers on student literacy and intervention plans. What are we going to be doing with those children? What do they need? Do we need to backtrack, like if they don't know their letters of the alphabet? Well, we need to backtrack and we need to teach them that. We model and we co-teach in the classrooms. Modeling would be if I got up in front of the classroom and I taught and the teacher sat and took notes about what I was doing. Co-teaching would be when the 2 of us are actually teaching, possibly during reading groups, the differentiated reading groups, where I might be working with one small group of students and the teacher would be working with another small group of students. So that would be the difference between modeling and co-teaching. And also we have monthly meetings with the district coaches, the 6 of us with Betsy, we get together and we discuss what's going on in the district and our concerns and our successes and what we are doing in each of the buildings so that we can pretty much coordinate and make sure that things are the same or as much as we can in each of the buildings. And then probably the next time we're going to have a meeting, we're going to have a party for Betsy, but don't tell her. It's a secret. We also have a consortium group with the Ypsilanti teachers and the Ypsilanti coaches and facilitators and the Dearborn coaches and facilitators. And last year we got together once a month. And again, we sat down, talked about our concerns, our successes. The facilitators were very good about doing any kind of training or anything that we needed that would help us to go back and help our teachers with. So we had some good steps that we could climb up and sometimes climb back down and then go back up. And we also do daily classroom walkthroughs where we actually walk into a classroom. The principals are involved in this also, where we walk into a classroom, we observe what's going on. We don't stay for very long. We stay for about 5-10 minutes, and then we leave, just so that we can see what's going on in the classroom, and that would be something that we could bring up at one of our weekly meetings. You know, I noticed you doing this in the classroom. Can you tell me more about it? Because I wasn't in there for very long. Can you tell me more about it? It looked like it was being very successful, and I'd like to share it with the other coaches, or maybe even coaches in the consortium group, so that we can let them know what things are working in our buildings and our classrooms. We also meet with the building principals on a regular basis. Each of us sit down with the building principal. The building principals do walkthroughs, and then we sit down and we discuss. One of the things that we would discuss would be what we each have seen in the classrooms, what's been going on, and what do we need to talk about, what needs to be kudos to the teacher about what's going on in the classroom. Professional development for this year, we did have 24 hours of Houghton Mifflin. This year we're going to have 26 hours of Houghton Mifflin for our total of 50 hours, like Candy said. That one of our grant requirements. We need 50 hours of Houghton Mifflin over 2 years. And we will reach that goal by the end of this year. For letters training, Module 9, like I said, was given last Thursday and was done very well. Karenza Fitch is a teacher over at Merriman, and she did an excellent job presenting the 6+1 writing traits. The Houghton Mifflin representatives were there to help out in any way that they could. They also gave each of the teachers a correlation booklet showing how the 6+1 traits, how it's connected to in Houghton Mifflin. And also for Dibbles, we will do more for focus. Now that we have a year under our belt, I think we'll be able to sit down and really discuss a little bit more in depth about the interpretation of the data and how we can use that data to better the children, help the children. Coaching will continue what we were doing last year for coaching, the walkthroughs and the meetings, the half-hour meetings and meeting with principals. We also purchased 3 books last year that we will use for book studies, literacy workstations, the Fluent Reader, and Bringing Words to Life. And right now over at Corey, we are doing literacy workstations. I think Candy's doing literacy workstations over at Hale Creek. And it's an excellent book, and the teachers are very excited about it. At the end of last year, we sat down with each of the teachers and the principal, and we had a debriefing where we asked teachers, give us your opinion of the training that you got in letters. Give us your opinion about the Dibbles training that you received. We wanted to know what they understood and what their needs were to help us with an action plan. So that at the beginning of this year, we sat down and we came up with an action plan. Each of the buildings has one. I know one of the things that I have for Corey is a parent piece where I'm going to be doing a Make It Take It workshop with the parents so that they can take things home, so that they can help their child with literacy at home. And we compiled all of the responses, and we're using that. We use that to create our professional development. What were the needs of the teacher? What did they need? What did they want to see for professional development? Any questions? I was either really good or really bad.
So now for the data and accountability section. In your packet, towards the end of your folder, you'll see this graphic organizer, and then behind it is the memo that came from the state. But I think looking at this graphic organizer is probably an easier way to explain how we're going to be judged next spring after we give our second administration of the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, which is a norm-referenced, nationally normed measure. The first requirement is that 95% of the third grade students take the test, all of the subtests. So really they're going to be looking at just third grade scores. And so this year we had very good, our rates of testing were 95 or higher in all of our 6 buildings. So that looks like it's going to be great. If that's the case, then we have to say, do 20% or more of the third graders have a total reading score at or above the 50th percentile? So that's one condition for making adequate yearly progress. Have we made progress so that 50% of our third graders are at the 20% of our third graders are at the 50th percentile or higher? If no, there's another way that we can make adequate yearly progress. Has there been a decrease of 10% or more of third graders scoring below the 25th percentile? If you think of 0 to 25 as being the danger zone, have we moved 10% of those kids out of that area, the neediest kids? So really it's it's not both, it's one or the other. And if we can do one of those, then adequate progress has been demonstrated. And then if we meet those criteria to make exemplary progress, then the University of Michigan is doing the evaluation study. Well, then Go back one. We'll then look at each subgroup. So if we've made adequate yearly progress on average, then they'll take a look at, have you made that same progress with subgroups, students of lower socioeconomic background, minority students. So the second criteria for making exemplary progress is, have you made those same the movement with those subgroups. So there's really two things that you can do. And then Barb, go to the last one. The adequate progress is what I was talking about, where you're moving, you have 20% at 50% higher, percentile or higher, and you've decreased that lower quartile. And then over here, excellent progress is you've done that same thing with subgroups in your building. So we feel pretty good. We'll know at in the spring. We'll have some harder numbers from U of M, but we look like there's some positive signs that this adequate progress will be made. I want to just show you. I did include in your packet. Go ahead, Barb. Probably the easiest to read and most complete look at the data from the 6 buildings. And you'll see a graph like this for first, second, and third grade at each elementary building. And what you have down at the bottom are the subtests of the Iowa, the vocabulary, the word analysis, listening comprehension, and then a reading total. We are judged on the reading total score. But it's important for us to take a look at some of the subtests so we know where progress is being made. This is an example of Wick Elementary 3rd grade. And you can see how the school has done in the green, how they compared to the district average in reading first, and then how they fared with the state reading first schools. And that's 120 buildings across the state of Michigan. So that gives us a beginning look at how we're doing in relation to buildings in the district and then buildings across the state. In this particular case, word analysis has gone really high for 3rd grade. So that's good for us to know that we were making some progress in that area with students. So you have that for each one of the buildings. Progress was mixed, some good signs, some signs that we're putting into the action plans that Barb talked about to make sure that we move some of those kids that are still lingering down there in that lowest quartile. But I encourage you to take a closer look at that data, and certainly through Tom and then Tom and getting a hold of me, we can offer you more information on that if you would like it.
But we're generally pleased.
Generally pleased, and I have to say that the central office, Tom is our lead contact, Louise, who has helped us tremendously with the budget. All of the Romulus principals have been extremely supportive, and then ultimately the K-3 teachers have been the ones that had to actually implement it. So with the coaches and the literacy team at the buildings, we've had a productive year.
I must tell the board, the process, as it's been explained, seems pretty easy, but it's been extremely demanding. And I've had the opportunity the last couple of days through North Central to meet with all the school improvement teams, and I want to tell you, it's really been integrated. Teachers are very positive, the coaches are very positive. I think we've come a long way. I think we have a very firm foundation for teaching reading to kids in our community. And Betsy and these folks have done just a tremendous job. And it's real, it's not phony. People really like it, they understand it. They've had to change their way of doing business. If you were to go into a classroom, you'd be extremely impressed seeing first and second graders working in cooperative groups by themselves, working with themselves. Very impressive. You guys have done a great job.
We'd like to end with just showing some snapshots from classrooms. And ironically, when I played the music, it's playing way too fast. So we're going to run out of music before the slideshow is finished. But we'll play it by ear and be flexible. But we wanted you to see the grant in action, and Pia's going to set this up for you.
Is this like an Ashley Simpson?
No.
Excuse me, Betsy, I have one question on that last slide. It does look like, well, we're doing really well. Yeah. At least we're above, because we're in the green, right? The Wick school.
That's
is in the
Wick,
green,
yes.
Right? So we're actually above. Okay, so yeah. That's good. That's a good thing.
It's a very good thing, yes. And this is third grade is the critical year. So I wanted to give you an example of a 3rd grade. You can see in some buildings it was first or second that had higher scores. And our thinking is, and we found this, that having students been in the grant a year, when they are tested in DIBELS this current school year, scores are higher than they were last year at this time. So we're hoping for that effect where it continues to have that domino effect in a good way.
That was going to be another question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Pia Chastney. I'm the literacy coach at Rommel. We'd just like to conclude this evening with a presentation by showing you pictures of the Reading First grant in action. You'll see teachers working with students, teachers learning together, principals and coaches supporting the K-3 classrooms. And then we had some special visitors last year. We had Senator Basham, Representative Hopgood, and our Reading First State Coordinator, Faith Stevens. So I hope you guys enjoy this.
My football players.
Yeah.
Very good, very nice.
Thank you.
Good job. Very good program, folks. You worked hard.
Were there any questions from the board members? I have a couple Let's see, you said in December, they look at us again to see if, for eligibility
Yes.
requirements. What are those eligibility requirements that we need to meet in order to get this grant again?
We need to meet the adequate yearly progress to show that we're making the most of the resources that we've given. So if we meet the requirement of moving the 20% into the 50th percentile, the data explanation that I gave. So if we meet that progress, then we are eligible to reapply.
Okay.
The sort of, not unfortunate thing, but in some cases, if you make really good progress, the initial plan was that then you would be eligible for the grant. The state has now reconsidered that and said that if you make really good progress, they'll at least fund your literacy coach for an additional year. So we're pretty positive that if Romulus chooses to apply again, given that we meet those data requirements, that we'll be eligible to reapply.
We'll be choosing to reapply.
Well, why wouldn't we choose to
Yeah.
reapply? Okay. Another thing, this form, I love this assessment part and
Yes.
the point that we do it before the card marking and we do it often. So I love this. This is great.
And it was a collaborative effort, but Pat, who presented it to you, did the bulk of the work on that. So we give her great kudos for that.
It looks like an Adams design.
Doesn't it? Yeah. The logical, analytical mind.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Anyone?
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Come to the part where we have communications and expressions from the public, and since I don't have a form here, we'll move on. Superintendent Kerr.
Items of interest are few and self-explanatory.
Okay, questions and concerns of board members? Yes, Ms. Lanasi.
Madam President,
Yes.
and colleagues on the board, and ladies and gentlemen, I was very impressed with Mrs. Sterling's high school class. Last week, they did up a flyer, and I'm sorry I didn't make copies for everybody.
Would this be it?
No, this is the one I
Okay, this
got.
is a
Maybe they
different
did
one.
different ones.
I got something
Was it
different.
Mrs. Sterling's class? I think this was really neat. I think it's terrible that nobody gets out and votes. You know, our board elections are certainly a show of that. But this was really nice that they did the neighborhoods. I don't know how many neighborhoods they did, if they did the whole city of Romulus or what, but I thought it was very nice, and it was very well done. It's not telling you who to vote for, it's telling you who's on the ballot. You know, not everybody certainly, but, you know, get out and vote. That was the message, and I'm very impressed with
I'll
that.
pass that on to her. That's nice of
Yeah.
you.
Did you get one of these?
I'd like to echo
No, but I
that
heard
too,
about
because
mine.
I brought my little flyer and I saw that. I thought this was great to get the young kids so involved so early. So, like I said, I got a different flyer, but this was fantastic.
Oh,
So,
it's just, yeah.
Great.
please tell Ms. Sterling she's doing a great job.
I know for a fact that the kids are the ones who design the flyers and put them together, and then they chose which
I figured that it had to be,
flyers
yeah.
to use and copy it.
Did you
pass
get
out.
one?
Where'd you get
Maybe you want to pass it on. It was at the door.
It was
on
on
your
my door.
Yeah.
A couple other things, I just kind of wanted to make a couple comments on all the good things that are going on in Romulus, but we now have a public service credit union at the high school. I know we're one of the few schools around that have that, so that's a good thing. And also Senator Stabenow was at the middle school. So we have a lot of great things going on in Romulus. And also for board members, I have a copy of a article that Ken Mankiewicz had bought, and I read it, and it's actually a very good article, so I made copies for everybody to have. And that's all I have. Anybody else? Nothing? Okay.
Okay,
May I have a motion, please?
make a motion to adjourn?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.